Hi everybody, Mike Reese back for Martial Arts Chat. Today, like I said this to some of the people that have been watching and everything like that, who I put this on my Twitter and I put it on Facebook. I'm talking about what makes a good combative system. And the reason why I said this is because this was a question that I asked in a Facebook group. And what I get anytime I seem to ask this is everybody starts saying, well, Krav Maga, spear, this, that, the other. They start going down the list of systems that are combative or considered more combative or made strictly for self-defense. And that's not what I'm asking. I'm asking, what do you think makes a good combative system? And the reason why I ask, what do you think makes a good combative system, is because I'm trying to get the understanding of what people say is combative or what's made for just for self-defense. And I'm starting to see that people are still looking at it per system. That system is more combative. This system is more combative. And that's not what I'm talking about. What makes those systems more combative? What makes them more made for self-defense? That's what I'm asking, okay? Because honestly, you can label something all day long, and I don't really care. You can put Hagana down, you can put Krav Maga down, and though there are some good parts to those systems, I wouldn't personally say that they're like 100%. Because there's things that they do I would not do. And that's just based off of my own personal experience, my own training, and things like that. So it's like, it's not that they're bad. I wouldn't say that because I still reference them as far as training is concerned. But I don't say that they're 100%, that's what I would do. Okay? And remember, Krav Maga, they're about as marketed out there as any big dojo out there. And they're getting about to be as bad as any one of them. And it's because they made money off of it. Okay, so you can't just take and put a name on it, because if everybody just sees that name, that's all they're going to look for, and they're not going to look for someone that actually knows what they're talking about. So I broke down what I see as what I would believe would make it more combative, or at least somebody that knows how to make something more combative. Now, I'm going to accept I want to see comments, and I want people to participate and kind of put their own ideas down of what they would say, and see if I've missed anything like that, or if I just didn't reference it. Maybe I don't know it, so go ahead and put it down. I don't mind that at all. So, but the one thing I took this from the SCARS website, and if you don't know what SCARS is, it's Special Combat Aggressive Response System, made by Jerry Peterson for the Navy SEALs, and for years they used that system. Okay, so you know, don't go, well, they use CQD now, and well, what's CQD? What's it designed of? Okay, so don't like start crossing things off. Okay, bet it's not Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Okay, I'm just letting you know that. But here's the things that would make it. Anyways, I'll get into that in a minute. What makes a good combative system? The three things they said what you should be doing immediately in your first encounter of your attack to basically prevail rather than just win. You need to prevail or survive. The three things you need to do initially on contact. You need to be taking their balance, creating chaos, or just plainly knocking them out. And this is the first thing you need to be doing. And everybody's like, well, I can see one, I can even see the other one, but I don't see knocking out. Then you're not trained how to hit properly. And this is what breaks this down, okay? The reason why I say take balance, this is a key thing. Okay, American Kempo guys are going to say control height, depth, and width. Well, okay, control height, depth, and width. But if you don't take away their balance, and some people say by by controlling height, weight, and depth, these guys are taking their balance away. But not necessarily. Someone could honestly brace themselves and give themselves a support rather than them really their balance being taken. Taking their balance means these people are either on their toes, because that you have no, or they're either on their heels, on their toes, or they're on one leg, or they're somehow supported. They're kind of wavering. They're really tilted. They're supporting most of their weight on one foot or the other, or they're on their toes or they're on their heels. Their balance is way off. That's what that means. That doesn't necessarily mean they take the height. Because if I take your height and you just drop down, you just basically sink your legs into it and go into like a squatted position. I didn't take your balance. I controlled your height. If I controlled your depth, that means I'm getting you this way. I'm trying to pull you in, and your width and all that stuff. That means I've got you turned around in some fashion. But that means that could be supported by one step forward and sinking down. Turning their hips so that they're a little more balanced off. Trust me, try to take the height, depth, and width of a judo guy without putting him on his heels or his toes or something like that. Try to do that. And I can guarantee you're still going to have a guy that can support himself really well. He's going to go right down into a balanced thing, and he's just going to shift his weight. Okay? So take the balance. I mean, you have to be able to see their balance is being shifted. Because that's when you take full control. Create chaos. What they mean by creating chaos, that means they're saying striking striking two targets at once. Basically, if they hit, they're striking with a kick and a punch. They're kicking the knee and striking the face. They're hitting, they're hitting the arm. They're not just blocking it. They're hitting the arm and hitting the face. They're doing two things at once, making the brain have a hard time sending the pain, basically helping block where the pain's at through the nervous system. It's having a hard time making these little connections, and it's basically making their central control system go, too much going on, and now they have to multitask, and they're not very good multitaskers. Okay? They've got too much high speed going on for it to multitask well enough. Or just knock him out, and that means it's proper targeting of how to knock someone out. Not just a makeshift of, knowing how to get the proper rotation, penetration through the body into this whole thing, and targeting. So the targeting, rotation, and penetration through the body. And you know what that means. You know that means going through the target, not just hitting the target. So you're going through it. And you're applying the right force through it. So when you have that all mixed together, when you have all that together, you're hitting with actual injury. So this is what we're going on, and this is what I believe helps make a combative system. Not just those 3 points. Those 3 points were good, in my opinion. Those are something that you should look for when you are, when you initially are doing something. These are I got a little bit of a list of things here that I usually cover in my classes and my courses, and the things that I try to teach, and this is stuff that I've learned, some of it on my own completely, and some of it through the people that some trusted instructors. But this is not in any order in particular. It's just I just wrote like a bullet list basically, and I have targeting. A good combative system should have targeting, and that means proper targets. You have your basic targets for your basic class. You show them, what do you mean by that? I mean, what is going to disable the opponent fastest? Not, maybe you can pop him in his head or pop the chin or whatever. I'm talking about, take this guy's eyes out, hit him in his throat, hit him in the neck. I'm talking about proper targeting from head to toe. Okay? Just, you have to know these targets. You need to tell people how to target. trust me, they're not. If you tell someone to get to this target, they'll go to that target. Just help them get to that target. The next one is research, and that means research material as far as research real scenarios, as far as what police reports show, view video camera footage, like actual security camera footage of attacks, understand do some research by talking to veterans in combat, what combative things happens, law enforcement guys, what they see that happens, because that's what's going to help you build it for them. It's going to help them. You're going to be able to help build the curricula around them and what they need it for the most. Because what my kid in high school will need isn't what a law enforcement officer is going to need, isn't what a soldier is going to need, and so on and so forth. So you have to meld it around their actual what prioritizes them in life. You can't just go, well, here, I'm going to give you this generic thing, and now everybody should do it. If you don't do it, you're not really looking into anything by doing it that way. You're just kind of saying, hey, this is what I was taught, here you go. That's not enough. Not to get for a good combative program. You have to be able to do it through good principles, good concepts, and researching what would help that. Help you. And basically it helps you as the instructor. What am I going to teach? How is violence done? If you haven't experienced a lot of violent things, research is what's going to carry you. Okay? That way it helps you show women what they need to look for, police officers what they need help with, that kind of stuff. Okay, you need to go with psychology, which means not just psychology of the person doing the classes, but help them with the psychology of basically your attacker. Plenty of stuff out there that helps with the mind of a criminal. Criminals talking about how, what would actually help thwart certain things before you even have to physically get into anything. Okay? So there's that kind of research, there's that kind of psychology we're talking about. And how do you do psychology through someone who was attacked? They've been attacked, they've come to your school, and now it's hard for you to get through to them certain things because you haven't been able to break down certain walls. How do you reach them? And how do you help them go from I was a victim to I'm not a victim and I'm going to be the worst target this person's ever seen? I mean, you have to also build them up, and you have to show them that way. Kind of give them a psychology of a lot of different things, okay? Performance psychology, behavioral psychology. I mean, a lot of, behavioral science, things like this. There's a lot of things that go on this that people don't touch on and they don't research. So you need to look at that. Body mechanics. Body mechanics is essential. What happens when I hit someone in this way? What are they actually going to do? And how am I generating enough force to get that energy? If I hit someone straight on, is it harder? Does it hurt more? Or does it hurt more when I go at an angle? Whether it's this way, downward, upward, is it going to cause more damage? What am I doing? So body mechanics. What way is the head going to turn if I hit it this way? What things actually happen when I hit the knee? When I hit the groin? So the actual body mechanics of how it's moving and how a body moves and how it locks up and how things like that happen. I mean, you need to see it for yourselves. You need to look at it yourselves. And sometimes that's not even in your dojo. That's something that you're going to have to go look up in like the library or something like that. Leverage. Leverage can kind of go into body mechanics, but leverage is also more of a physics thing. You got your levers and pulleys, and you got all that stuff to help you understand how to get leverage and how to apply leverage. And then you have to see which part is the fulcrum, what one's the lever. You got to see where all that stuff is applicable on the body, which is this is again good jiu-jitsu teachers I've seen have that, but sometimes a lot of them are physics teachers, so they know what they're talking about. And then you have anatomy. What parts of the bodies are vulnerable? How do you get to these parts of the body? I mean, I mean, that kind of stuff. I mean, when I hit here, am I actually hitting the kidney? Or when I hit in this area, am I actually hitting the liver, the gallbladder? What am I looking for here? What kind of hit am I looking at? And what am I looking at as far as what's being hit, what's being actually destroyed? The nervous system, you know, where are the nerve clusters? Where are the most exposed nerve areas? You know, it's all these crazy things that you have to look up on your own sometimes. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you have good instructors that teach you this. So it's just up to you. But you also prioritize it of how it's going to be for you. But this makes good combatives. Retraction. And I mean that by, you know, someone throws out their hands. How does someone actually punch? How do they actually kick? How do they actually do something? You know, how do they move their head? You know, how do people perform? And that goes into performance psychology, but at the same time, it's like, you know, the retraction point here, I mean, these guys are going to retract their limb. Well, what happens in most schools, though? When they do their thing, they throw their hand out, and they leave it out there for this guy to do his wonderful kung fu or his whatever he's doing, and they're like, oh, look at that. They don't pay attention that, you know, survival instincts show up for everybody. Whether you're defending yourself or you're the one attacking. If you start counterattacking, then what's happening is you're attacking them now, and now they're going to do what they got to do. Okay, so you have to take in both parties. People rarely do that. They say, well, this is what you do based off of this. And okay. Rarely do they ever talk about the other person. And they're going to retract. And then it brings me to the next point, continual motion. There's always going to be motion. They're not going to be standing still. They're not going to be allowing you to beat on them with 50 different hits and do all that stuff. Now, I understand that what people do when they do multiple striking, what that is it's if this misses or it does not cause the injury that I want it to, I'm still in motion because now my body has learned these different motions and I'm still going to stay in motion to continue to hit until I find the one that makes injury. Okay, I understand that, but you don't want to rely on that. Because I guarantee you, someone's going to tie you up, and it's going to be your flow of motion is done now, and now you're going to have to switch into something else completely. So you're just going to, it's a matter of, okay, proper training, improper training, you know, good things, bad things. So just remember, continual motion. Someone's going to continually be moving. You're going to have to not only, so if he moves out of the way and you're in a flow, and you're going, well, now he moved this way. Well, then they say, well, then I'll switch to this. Well, that's fine, but do you train that? Do you train someone moving away from that and then you have to go into something else? Or do you just stay there and go, oh, what are you doing? You can't move. Whoa, reset. Okay, good teachers won't teach you to not move. They'll keep you moving around. You know, try to do your techniques in a sparring session. See what happens. I bet jiu-jitsu guys, Brazilian jiu-jitsu guys, wrestlers, judo guys, they can do what they do in those situations. Kyokushin guys, I bet you they can do stuff like that. Why? Because that's how they train. Weapons. You always have to have an understanding of weapons. And I'm not talking about sword and this, that, and the other. Sword, size, nunchucks, things like that. That stuff that's good for nostalgia. And even nunchucks, kind of, in a sense, you could kind of teach that for a weapon. But let's look at reality here. What's the most used weapon? It's not a nunchuck. It's not a sword. It's not a bow staff. It's not a spear. Okay? You can train that stuff if you want. It's good for nostalgia, and like I said before in some of my other videos, is you can use it also for training. You can do it to help strengthen yourself, and that's, you know, that's all well and good, but you know, it's not the walk, you know, we're not in The Walking Dead. You don't have to use your sword to cut off heads of zombies walking down the street. I'm glad I have that skill if that ever happens. But I still might rely on a gun more. Just saying, keeping things away from me. So, do you train firearms? Not disarms. Do you train firearms? Do you know how to train firearms? Do you know what it means for retention? Retention doesn't just go for firearms, it goes for knives. It goes for all these different things. Do you train these things? Do you understand these things? Do you use weapons in all these different facets? Do you show disarms? Do you show weapon versus weapon? Do you show, I mean, what do? What is your knowledge base? So, I mean, you have to go down those lines. Are you trained enough? Do you have knowledge enough to train a soldier how to disarm someone with an AK-47? How about someone that has a black market, you know, M4 with a grip instead of just holding it there? You got a grip. What happens now? This disarm is different than this disarm. It's just going to happen. You have to think outside the box. You can't just go, well, this is how it's going to be for everything. Well, it's not very combative if you're not teaching modern weaponry. And believe it or not, machetes, like little hand axes, these things are very easy to buy. You can go to Walmart and buy a little hand axe. You can buy a machete. You can buy a pocket knife. That stuff is easy and accessible. Thus the reason why they're actually used more than anything else. Because they're very accessible. But people are able to get guns very easily. So you got gun stuff too. So you have to be able to understand modern weaponry. And, you know, just weapons in general. And do you teach them and train with them at the same time as disarming them? Because what's the good of disarming a weapon, taking it and having it, and not knowing what to do with it? Improvised weapons. Do you know what's around you? Do you know how to use your environment as a weapon? Do you know how to use anything that could be in your hand as some sort of shield, weapon, or any type of anything that can help you in a survival situation? And if you're like, well, no, I don't, you know, we don't really cover that. I mean, we cover it by talking about it, but we don't really do it. Then you're doing a horrible injustice to kids in schools that can't carry weapons, but as soon as they walk out that door, you know that there's kids out there that have weapons. As soon as they get into school, they might be bullied, and someone's might sneak something in, so they have to learn. Because if you're a good kid and you're obeying the rules, you don't take weapons to school. If you're a bad kid, which these exist, believe it or not, guys, they're going to hide their weapon in a pair of pants and come in. And they're going to come in and they're going to use that weapon. And if you're the intended victim, do you have any way of defending yourself by looking around and just looking and saying, okay, this is what I need to do. I just need to grab this and go. Not everybody has that innate instinct to be able to pull that off. Training this and helping people open their eyes and keep that awareness, not just for just awareness, but also be aware of your environment and how to use it. Not everybody teaches that, so that's part of the things that makes good combatives. Multiple person scenarios, multiple attacker scenarios are huge. And most people will teach them, but they only teach them probably around the advanced levels, like black belt level, where you start seeing people start using multiple person attack scenarios. That's an injustice. You should be doing this right away. And the reason why I say you should do this, at least 2-on-1 type scenarios right away, is because that, my friends, is a reality. You are more than likely going to be attacked by more than one person than you would be just one-on-one. And I say attacked as in you're in a situation where you have to defend yourself. Okay, that's combative. You got multiple enemies. You don't have just one. That's an opponent. That's the guy that you fight, you know, competitively. You know, he's an opponent, not an enemy, and not an attacker. There's some differences there, guys. Believe it or not. Pressure testing. Have you pressure test your techniques to work with a high adrenal state? And if you have not, and if they're not working, how are you going to fix that? Pressure testing, and if you say, what's pressure testing? then I can already tell you right now, your system's not very, it's not very combative. Because you are not, basically it's how do you do under stress? Your body's under duress. How do you train for these people to fight within that state? Do your techniques handle from there? Probably not your techniques, but what principles and concepts are you teaching to help them and motivate them to survive? Pre-fight and post-fight. Everybody handles the fight part of it, but no one really handles the pre-fight, which is the awareness, alertness, and how to basically be prepared for that fight, and possibly not even being aware of that fight until you're in the fight. And then the post-fight. Post-fight, there's very few, if anybody, talks about post-fight. And that means after the fight's done, after the survival's done, after all that stuff, what do? Well, I think I walk away, don't I? No, you need to call the police. If you were just in a fight, if you were in a survival altercation, if you just beat your attacker up because you were being raped and you had to beat this guy down, you get to a secure location and you call the police. Then you take in legalities, all that stuff for self-defense. If you don't teach legalities, if you don't teach what happens after a fight, then you are doing your students, again, an injustice. And it also means you probably have no idea. And this is where this bullet point comes. Understanding. Understanding. Do you understand any of these concepts or principles? Do you understand anything about real violence? Are you willing to understand anything about it? If you are unwilling to go any further than what your teacher taught you or what your curriculum says to do, you are not going to be doing a combative system. And your self-defense is just a marketing tool. That's it. It has to go beyond these things. Your understanding of combat, your understanding of violence, you've got to put your head into that game. How do I teach how do I teach a woman how not to be raped then? I've never been raped before. Because I'm a dude. Well, if you have that mindset, and I swear, if anyone had that thought when they were watching this, which I'm sure someone did, if you did, then you need to talk to victims and look at police reports. Freedom of information, you can do that. Did you know that? Yeah. Talk to them. Find out what it was like. I don't know what it's like, but I do know people who do know what it's like to be a woman on the end of an attack. Something serious. And instead of going, I actually asked them, what do you think you need to learn then for this to never happen again? And what's funny is they'll break down the list, and half of them know it's because they just weren't very confident at the time and they just didn't fight back at all. Problem solved. I'm going to teach you to fight back, and I'm going to help, because of that, it's going to help raise your confidence. But I'm also going to add more terms when I start talking to them. I'm going to start building them up with that. At the same time, I will put some fear in them in certain scenarios just to see if they can actually not freeze in that circumstance anymore. Pressure test. There's that. So, but you have to be understanding. You have to understand what's going on by actually doing your homework and not just allowing whatever's written in front of you say that's the whole thing. Because there's a lot to it that you probably aren't understanding. Adaptability. Is your combative program adaptable to basically what's happening around you, these physical things. I mean, is it adaptable? Can you adapt to this? Can you adapt to 2-on-1 to a 3-on-1? Can you adapt to close quarters? Can you adapt to whatever the situation calls for? Can you adapt to it? Is it what you're teaching adaptable to certain environments and certain types of attacks? If you're saying no, then you need to analyze your stuff. Action more than reaction. And this goes into mental programming, and I have mental programming on here. Action more than reaction. You need to be acting more than just reacting all the time. You need to find out the subtle differences of what acting and preemptive attacks and acting into it is, more than just reacting all the time, because then you're always going to be defensive. And that goes into mental programming. The mental programming is how are you programming people to start being proactive about their defense and their ability to defend themselves. How are you programming people to walk out of your class to be more aware? How are you getting people to understand that it's not just about the techniques that you're learning and all the fancy names? Who cares about any of that stuff? When it comes to the real fact is you need to mentally program yourself to do the right thing and be better at it. Okay? These are just what I think makes a good combatives program. I mean, there was a whole lot more, but I mean, I'm already running into 30 minutes on this. So there's a lot more on this. So just let's start commenting below. Tweet me at TFS Michael Reese. You can go on my Facebook. There's Facebook groups and things like that. Follow me on, and continue to comment here on YouTube. I'll get to these comments. I'll get to the tweets. I'll get to the Facebook stuff. So just keep commenting. Share these videos. And I want to continue to talk about the truth of martial arts, okay? Let's continue to be truth. You know what? I'll chat with you guys later. I've gone too long, but I'll chat with you guys later. And let's continue looking at martial arts. Continue to be true about it, okay? Later.